A massive shout out goes to Chris Voss for supporting today's video via Patreon. This one proved popular last time, Toxrill the Corrosive, this time up against Phenax, Athreos and old Stickfingers. Got a couple of gods that we're facing up against today, and yeah, we've got mana and a tutor. Probably go for fast mana with that, so we will keep. Might go for the Necropotence actually, not sure if it's in this deck or not, I can't remember. A Ruin Crab starts us off for the mill player. We get into a Dictate of Erebos. So we'll just go for the tap land with the Misty Rainforest and pass it over to Billy Kills, patron of the channel, playing old Stickfingers. And it is Athreos Shadowborn Apostles apparently, because we see a Shadowborn Apostle on turn 1 for Athreos, a Demonic Tutor from the other Dimir player. And they did mill us all with the Ruin Crab. That will be for every landfall that they make. Okay, and a Crow and Horse is another means of us giving our opponents creatures and things. I'm just wondering if we want Necropotence here. We'll play out the Swamp, and yeah, let's just go for the Genesis Chamber. I don't think we necessarily need the Necropotence just yet. Might be worth going for some fast mana still with the Demonic Tutor. It's a Vampiric Tutor from Billy Kills. He is in old Stickfingers, like I said, so you won't necessarily mind having all his stuff milled. Nothing to do on his turn 2 apparently, so it's over to the Apostles player. And still no white mana over there, so potentially making it with a treasure token thanks to the Deadly Dispute. Back up to 7 cards in hand. Might be that no one's wanting to play creatures into a Genesis Chamber. Anyway, land's still coming down from Ruin Crab, followed by a Rhystic Study, so that's probably what they tutored for. There's a Bojuka Bog for us. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on the Bojuka Bog for as long as possible, because Kills won't like having his graveyard exiled here. There's only really one relevant creature in there, in Filth. Funny that he's got Filth against a bunch of black players, that's really good for him. Anyway, we'll drop the Swamp. And let's go for Demonic Tutor. We can... yeah, I think maybe we have to go for Necropotence here. So we'll pay the 1. Game seems to be going a little bit slower, so maybe Necropotence is alright. That does mean that we can pay Rhystic Study tax as well. Kodama's Reach straight into the Rhystic Study. Cannot pay for that. See the first commander of the game now, Athreos, God of Passage. Again, not paying into the Rhystic Study, so the Dimir player jumps back up to 7. And now this player holding up a bunch of blue mana, so I wonder if they're looking to counter whatever it is that we tutored for. Chromatic Lantern I don't mind. I don't necessarily have to get down Necropotence immediately. Billy Kills already has Urborg in place, so there's no harm in us running ours out. Let's go for the Chromatic Lantern. Limp our way up to more mana. And we'll pay into the Study. They are holding up priority over here as well, so it's likely that they've got some counter magic. Going after the counterspell player is always a weird one. It depends on the player obviously, but sometimes they just counter the next spell they see without actually analysing whether or not it's worth countering. They decide against the Chromatic Lantern. Noxious Revival now from Kills, and that is targeting the Abrupt Decay, so likely wants to put that on the Rhystic Study. Pays into the Rhystic Study this time. Plays Cabal Coffers for the turn, and there are a couple of Urborgs in play, so should tap down for a bunch. So Abrupt Decay first of all, and that does target the Rhystic Study. And then we have a Praetor's Grasp. That targets us, so search for a card, exile it face down, you can play it. I actually just put this into a Gonti list, so you have to be sure to tell me if you want to see that on the channel or not. I know a lot of you really like Mono Black. Never played with Gonti before, I've been meaning to do it for a number of years now. There is a Bojuka Bog, so that saves us using ours yet. Yeah, I'll probably actually miss a land drop to save that Bojuka Bog, because that should really hurt Billy Kills there. He hasn't lost Brawn or Jared yet. There's the 5 mana Golgari creature that parent toughness equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard, so that's probably in here as well. But getting rid of Jared and the Brawn would be really good. Anyway, also getting down a Remembrance. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may search for a card with the same name and put it into your hand, so that's obviously for the Shadowborn Apostles. More mill from the Ruin Crab. I've got a feeling that this Dimir deck is going to be a real pain. Ashiok Nightmare Muse now. And just deciding to plus on that, so making a 2-3 Nightmare. Back round to our turn, we've got Plumb the Forbidden with no creatures. We can go for the Crow and Horse here, I think. Don't want to play that Bojuka Bog particularly just yet. So let's throw down the Crow and Horse. Can't hold up the Plumb the Forbidden, unfortunately. And then a Crow and Horse will trigger. We'll put it under the control of the Athreos player. They're really not wanting to play their Shadowborn Apostles into our deck. We'll have to eventually, though. It's noteworthy, it was milled previously, and Amphin Mutineer is in our bin as well, so we can get that out with Encore for 6 mana if we're desperate. As of right now, we're just wanting to make some soldier tokens with the Trojan Horse. Not sure why the Mir is in control, why the Athreos player is in control of the Mir token, actually. The Crow and Horse enters under our control, and then we give it to someone. So we should have the Mir there, I think. Yeah, the non-token creature entered under the control of us, so... anyway, they get an extra Mir token for whatever reason. Oh wow, they took our Cabal Coffers there. I wondered how they got 2 there, so... yeah, got that after stealing it from us with the Praetor's Grasp. So now have access to 2 Cabal Coffers. You don't see that every day. The old Stickfingers is now a 10/10, which suggests they've got a bunch of creatures in the bin. Yeah, Necrotic Ooze for combos. Wouldn't mind getting rid of that. Underrealm Lich as well. There's Blood Artist. Viscera Seer is a good sack outlet. Golgari Thug for more dredge. Might still want to wait for a little bit. Yeah, Disciple of Bolas as well. They've got good creatures, but it's the Brawn and the Jared that I want rid of, really. Anyhow, we all get a soldier token during the Athreos player's upkeep. And there is an Edgewalker. This was bugged for the longest time, so hopefully it still isn't. Makes clerics cost black and white less. Looks like they can still get the Shadowborn Apostles out for free, so getting themselves a bunch of Mir tokens, emptying their hand as well. That has animated Athreos, God of Passage. And I reckon they're going to be scared of us, so might turn in the Athreos this way. Nope, decided to just hold it back. Ruin Crab milling us all again, and as usual, the graveyard player, his graveyard won't stay open. Then casting a Reanimate, that went on to the Necrotic Ooze even, not the Necropotence. Necrotic Ooze, that is Billy Kills his Necrotic Ooze. That has a bunch of abilities here. You can pause and read those if you want to. Ashiok plussing yet again, and a Nightmare token comes into play. Now the 2/3 swings in towards us. We will have the top 2 cards exiled, getting rid of a couple of really good ones, Meathook Massacre and a Razaketh. We'll take the 2. Okay, there's Sol Ring. I was just thinking that we're not doing too well on the mana front here, so good to see the Sol Ring. Let's play that out straight away. And then we'll go for this Hunted Phantasm. That is a 4/6 that can't be blocked. And 5 1/1 Red Goblins go under the control of someone else. So we'll give them to Billy Kills and hopefully he's nice to us. I'd preferably like to get the commander out whilst we have some kind of protection held up. I don't want to tap out into it. It might be that we have to go for Plumb the Forbidden in response to some big blocks during this next turn cycle. And that should help us get into some lands that we don't mind playing. And maybe some protection as well. This Dimir player keeps holding up mana, so we assume that it's for counter magic and stuff like that. A Scourge Familiar now for kills. 3/2 flyer, can discard to add a black. Really irritating that the graveyard won't stay open. We do see a Sir Conrad, as well as a Ravenous Chupacabra in the bin now. Also noteworthy that old Stickfingers has Trample, and it is a 14/14, so he must have seen the Brawn in here at some point. Ah, there it is. Only just entered the graveyard, so yeah, it might be time to pull the trigger on the Bojuka Bog now. Swinging in the 14/14 towards Athreos, I think that is good going. Alright, but Hero's Demise goes on to that, so blowing up the old Stickfingers to protect the Ashiok. The Dimir player goes down to 4. 4 cards in hand, that is, not 4 life. And the Ashiok could limit break next turn. You may cast up to 3 spells from among face-up cards your opponents have exiled without paying the mana cost, which means they could get a Razaketh and a Meathook Massacre. I think Meathook Massacre will have to be 0, but it'll still be an enchantment on the board. There's some lands there. Oh wow, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been exiled, so yeah, thanks to the Bojuka Bog, that could nicely set up the Ashiok. They need to pretty much tap out against the Ashiok player, preferably. If they can get at least 1 point of damage on there, then that would save us for another turn. And then Hunted Phantasm can start swinging in there. Yeah, so doing the right thing here, that's really good. I was worried the Athreos player hadn't seen it, so going all in at the Ashiok. Don't think he'll get rid of the Ashiok, but we'll certainly get rid of some creatures and chip away at the loyalty there. So everything blocking there. So having a couple of cards exiled there because it is blocking. And then a Hero's Downfall, so that goes on to the Edgewalker. Yeah, seems like a strange Hero's Downfall to me, but fine. That is one less piece of removal in their hand. They will have to Lightning Bolt themselves if they want to get the Edgewalker back. Remembrance won't do anything here because they can only have one Edgewalker in their deck. And they exile another Swamp. There is Immortal Servitude as well. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have too many creatures. Yeah, that might not be too good for them at the very least. Anyway, they do get Ashiok down to 4, that's really good. And then there's a bunch more triggers here. I don't think the Dimir player's taken any life, so they did get the Edgewalker back. And I think they got a single Shadowborn Apostle as well. And there we go, back over to the Dimir player's turn, so hopefully they don't have too much in the ways of spot removal now. I think the Hero's Downfall was curious on the Edgewalker. Necrotic Ooze can sacrifice and scry 1. I think there must be a Viscerous Seer somewhere. Oh yeah, the Viscerous Seer is still here in the bin, so sacrificing one of their creatures to scry 1. Ruin Crab triggers yet again. I'm just hoping that the Dimir player taps out here. Alright, there is Toxic Deluge, only going for 2 on that, so leaving the Hunted Phantasm in play. We'll get rid of... Yeah, they'll keep their board intact, which is the plan. It'll keep the Acrone Horse in play as well. So we might as well go for Plumb the Forbidden now. I was actually debating whether or not to kill off all my tokens with Plumb the Forbidden, because they are obviously chump blockers, but the Toxic Deluge makes up our mind for us. Don't imagine our opponent counters this, because we still get the copies even if they counter either one of the copies or the original. So we'll lose 4 and draw 4 at instant speed. Yeah, you remember I told you all how good Plumb the Forbidden is? I don't imagine it's crept up in price all that much yet, but you should pick up as many copies as you can before it does. Okay, there is potentially some protection for our commander. So Athreos continuing to trigger, they don't seem to want to take any life to that, so just constantly giving the Shadowborn Apostles back. Oh, Remembrance actually... No, I misread it. I thought they could fill their hand up with Shadowborn Apostles. You search for a card. It's a single Shadowborn Apostle you get with this, so... Yeah, they go up to 7 cards in hand currently. Yeah, so they go up to 9 cards, maybe 10 with this Athreos. Yeah, go up to 10, so... Basically their hand is filled with Shadowborn Apostles at this point. Then turning in a couple of 0/1s just for the exile effect. Wow, getting rid of some really good stuff for us. That is a Rise of the Dark Realms. Getting rid of Clackbridge Troll. And the Whisper Blood Liturgist as well. Now they're searching their library for a card somehow. Oh, pay 2 life, sack another creature, search for a card. So Billy Kills must have his Razaketh in the graveyard. Yes, Razaketh. I can't keep this damn graveyard open. Ugh. Well, anyway, Razaketh is this one, and that is in Billy Kill's graveyard, so he was able to search up a card there, and it looks like he's going for Windfall. So we all draw a bunch of cards at least. We get into Swiftfoot Boots to protect our commander. That does mean that we've lost our Bajuka Bog now as well, though. Yeah, so that feels pretty bad. Bajuka Bog in the bin, so that makes Kills much more of a threat. It does mean that he's more likely to be able to help us against the Dimir player at least. Oh, Dimir player gets down his own Necropotence. That tutor was a really bad tutor by me, apparently. Should have just gone for fast mana. I'm always expecting against green and white players that we'll have our fast mana removed straight away. But yeah, turns out that that demonic tutor was completely pointless. A Planar Void now as well. Whenever another card is put into the graveyard, exile it instead. That's really good against Kills. I don't think it particularly matters against us. Anyway, the Ashiok has minus down on something. Alright, the Shadowborn Apostle player just decided to scoop at the first sign of adversity. So that's them down. Yeah, Ashiok went for a minus on something there. I need to see what they went for. Oh, it was on the Athreos. Yeah, so Athreos got sent back to the hand. And I think they had enough cards in hand to exile something else, but apparently didn't like what Ashiok was doing regardless. So a bunch of life being put into Necropotents. They are down to 21. Ashiok will go down to our creature next turn. And I'm just now thinking, thanks to the Chromatic Lantern, we've had blue mana all game, but look how many cards we would have had to draw into in order to get to the next round of blue mana. Yeah, that's pretty unlucky. Potentially would have been struggling there. Anyway, Planar Void going to exile... Oh, they're discarding to Necropotents here, which would have them exile the stuff anyway, but Planar Void is going to exile their stuff as well, just getting rid of a bunch of land seemingly. So they've crafted themselves a very good 7-card hand seemingly. Yeah, that Windfall was really good. I absolutely would have dropped the Bojuka Bog here and got rid of Kill's Graveyard, which would have removed the Necrotic Ooze effectively. We don't have access to our Cabal Coffers with the Expedition map anymore. Let's just go Polluted Delta. We can go for the Hunted Horror, and I think we can equip that up with the Swiftfoot Boots as well. That's a 7/7 with Trample, and it's going to put some green Centaur tokens into play under Kill's control. We'll get a Genesis Chamber trigger, and yeah, we're 1 mana shy of... I'd really love to play and equip this onto the Hunted Horror and swing it in over there. So in that case... Do we particularly need to swing in with the Hunted Horror? I don't think so. We just need to get rid of Ashiok first and foremost. So in that case, maybe Burnished Heart is a good idea. We can play and crack Burnished Heart. Gives us another Genesis Chamber trigger. And then it's through to combat. We will finally deal with this Planeswalker. That can't be blocked. Ashiok goes down and is exiled. And with that, we will pass it over to Billy Kills. We will discard. Don't think the Expedition map is much use to us now. So we'll get rid of that. It is noteworthy that the Planar Void actually switches off the flashback for our Mass Diminish as well, because obviously when this hits the bin, it will get exiled straight away, so can't make use of it twice, unfortunately. Soul Ring for Billy Kills as well. Still has that 10 cards in hand, as well as a bunch of Cabal Coffers mana. Each of them tapping for 7. E-Witness, yep, here's where we see that the Windfall and the lack of another Bojuka Bog really hurts the outcome of this game potentially. E-Witness pointed at the Beast Within, so likely wants rid of the Planar Void. And that's exactly what he does, the Beast Within being cast straight away. Still 11 black floating mana and a couple of green untapped. The Void is likely to go down here, I think, unless there's some free counter magic in hand. He just paid a life into something, so that might be Force of Will, is it? You pay a life? No, he's going for the Necrotic Ooze. Maybe it was 2 life he paid, and maybe he's going for a tutor. Oh yeah, search your library for a card, so the Razaketh and Necrotic Ooze is doing a hell of a lot of work here. Discards a Propaganda to whatever he's about to do, so that will get exiled. And then it is a Drown in the Loch, so counter a spell, yeah, basically countering the Beast Within. Was able to tap the Necrotic Ooze for mana there. So this Planar Void is really messing around with what Kills wants to do, I imagine. Can't really cast his old Stickfingers into it. And now a Death from Billy Kills, returning a creature from the graveyard, targeting the Sir Conrad the Grim. Yeah, the stuff still dies, I think, with this. Yeah, so this goes on the stack, it's not a replacement effect, so Sir Conrad will still trigger, but after the stuff's been put in the bin, it will get exiled with the Planar Void. So Sir Conrad coming back into play. Still 7 cards in hand for Kills. And he decides on a 3 visits to get some more green mana, followed by a Sylvan Library. And a Golgari Grave Troll, that should be pretty big. Yeah, comes in as a 15/15 with Trample. So looking to just straight up take out the Dimir player, I imagine. He'll be able to make use of our Centaurs to do it. Okay, but not turning the Centaurs in sideways, surprisingly. That has protection from Black and Trample, and it was only the Ruin Crab that was held up there. So not wanting to potentially deal 6 damage. Let's just keep, well, you can all try and keep track of all the abilities that the Necrotic Ooze has now. Can pause it there if you like and give it a read through. Anyway, Memory Erosion now. And that one is whenever an opponent casts a spell, mill 2, so... yeah, it's really hurting the old Stickfingers, but not necessarily us. A Bruvac Grandiloquent, so yeah, that's twice as many cards are milled instead. Haven't seen their commander yet. There's a Genesis Chamber trigger from the creature. And then Mystical Tutor. So we'll at least get to see what's on top. They will be able to draw into whatever they tutor for at the end of the turn as well, so maybe some free counter magic. Oh, did they not cast that? Oh, they discarded the Mystical Tutor for some reason. Yeah, not sure what made them discard that. Maybe it's something from the Necropotence. Anyway, they go for Mesmeric Orb now as well. We're down to 42 cards left in the library, by the way. Kills is down to 33. There's every chance that we could be milled out here. This is a really cool deck from our opponent. He's still got 59 cards in the library. Goes for Necropotence 3 times. Or 4 times even. Can't count. So at the end of the turn, we will make some more mana with the Burnished Heart. Our opponent gets those 4 Necropotence cards into hand. The Burnished Heart will trigger Sir Conrad the Grim. And we'll obviously get the lands as well. The Burnished Heart will get exiled to the Void. Okay, so Mesmeric Orb is going to potentially be the end of us here, if the game goes on much longer. But I don't think Kills is going to be too likely to let that happen. So Conrad triggering every time a creature goes into the bin as well. So we've seen the back of the Sangromancer. Not too worried about gaining life. This isn't a game that we're going to lose to life loss. Swan Song gone down as well. Don't have too much counter magic in the deck. Just a little bit to try and protect our commander. Mana Vault going down as well. Sidisi, Undead Vizier could have been useful. Our own Rhystic Study. Awaken the Erstwhile to get rid of people's hands. Bastion of Remembrance. And then it's more Mass Diminish type effects. So Polymorphist's Jest and a Sudden Spoiling. Fast Mana, Zulaport Cutthroat. Yeah, so this Sir Conrad, I was going to say, could spell the end for the Dimir player, but unfortunately, that crashed the game. I'm surprised that crashed the game, actually, because there were only a few triggers left on the stack, but yeah, that's Magic Online for you. That's a real shame. I am going to upload this deck anyway with a warning at the beginning of the video, because I think this Phenax deck was really cool. I don't think they would have pulled out from underneath both myself and Billy Kills. Kills was definitely gunning for him for obvious reasons, and yeah, I didn't particularly care to die to mill myself. Didn't really see much of the Toxrill, unfortunately. My plan was there to go for the Mass Diminish first thing onto my opponent, keep them, or try to keep them from tutoring for any more stuff, and then with their creatures switched off and sent down to 0/1s, I think they would have been, then I could get out Toxrill. Maybe flip round the dagger equipment that I had and get some more mana with that. But yeah, we'll never know how that game would have turned out now, so hopefully you all enjoyed this one anyway. Hopefully you all enjoyed seeing that cool Phenax deck. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.